Okay, this is code challenge number 28. So welcome back and let's move forward. Let's take a look at the challenge. Evaluate if 25 is less than 35. That's going to be the challenge. And it's not so much a math challenge, but a coding challenge. So let's keep that in mind. Store both numbers in their variables, display the instructions to the screen, use the correct decision code, and then display output. And I'm also going to change this out. Let's find out what it is. Okay. And you should probably challenge your students before, or like I said, as part of the instructions to the game is to make sure that students understand the particular challenge element. Okay. So, from where we started to where we are now, these challenge elements become a bit more critical in their understanding of how to think about and how to write code logic and coding structure, okay? So we moved a long way from basic math operations, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, and we're now evaluating if greater than, and now we're evaluating less than, if the statements are true and false. So let's move forward and take a look at this from pseudocode perspective. And so again, I'm going to go ahead and change these so that they actually display output, okay? We want them to display exactly what we want them to display because we want the computer to do some work for us, okay? So the pseudocode says display evaluate 25, and now I'm going to go take this out. That's not what I want it to do. Evaluate 25 less than 35. I'm going to write that right in here. Okay, evaluate 25 less than 35. Tell me what that means, okay? Tell me if it's true, tell me if it's false, okay? Create those variables, and this time when we look at the code, I'm going to start moving us into why is using variables so important, okay? So on the teacher end, we just want to reinforce the fact that the use of variables is very, very important. So when we are iterating that to our students, they become more and more comfortable with that idea. So this is what the pseudocode looks like. And of course, the flow chart has not changed. So, and neither has the code structure either. So we're going to evaluate 25 less than 35. We're going to create two variables and store those numbers in variables and then use the condition statement, if else. So if num1 is less than num2, if that statement is true, tell me that it's true. If it's false, tell me that it's false. Okay, great. So with that, let's go to the code. And I've changed a little bit. And again, from earlier tutorials to now, I'm simply adding some elements so that when you're teaching your students, you can actually incorporate these newer ideas into your teaching lesson. Okay, so we're still creating num1 and num2 as our two variables, but now I'm using those variables. Now, without knowing the syntax of Python or how to use drag and drop block-based coding structures, don't particularly worry about this until we're actually in front of the computer. However, there are so many good things that we can do when we get through the learning lesson and then get on the computer and start creating programs that we can interact with, okay? So all I'm doing now is actually now using my variables in my print statements, okay? And that's perfectly okay. We're going to do that with Scratch. We're going to do that with Python. We could do that with any coding language. So instead of actually using those numbers, because those numbers are changing with every challenge, I'm simply now going to use the variables for them to, again, those variables represent those numbers. So whenever I use that variable, it's going to pull from memory whatever it's allocated to or whatever we've assigned it to, 25 and 35 respectively. So if num1 is less than num2, and again, we're using 25 and 35 as our variable elements, let's run it. And you can see that if Evaluate if 25 is less than 35. Evaluate if 25, again, the use of the variable, is less than 35, use of the variable. Okay, so we're doing good. Let's move on to the next challenge.